Hi there, and welcome to another episode of our CFO Notebook series, where I'll be speaking to senior finance leaders about latest trends and challenges they're facing and the steps they're taking to address them. I'm Aoife Morgan, reporter at the CFO, and today I'm joined with Vineta Bajaj, the Group Finance Director at Ocado Group, to discuss what it's like working in a fast-growth environment, the key to its successful transformation, and her finance journey to date. Thank you for joining us today, Vineta. How are you?
I'm great. Thanks for having me. How are you?
I'm good. I'm very excited for our conversation
today. Me too.
Cool. So Ocado Group has seen phenomenal growth in the last decade. What sort of growing pains have you experienced within that time, and what have been some of the challenges for you and your finance team?
I don't even know where to begin. When I joined Ocado, we were a £500 million company, and we're now, in excess of 2 billion revenue. And when I joined, I only had one person to manage, and now I have over 150 people. We were a retail business, and now we're the most successful technology business in the UK. And we were a FTSE 250 company, and now we're a FTSE 50. So if you just think about it, growing pains around process documentation, even till today, people say to me, do you know where that file is? I'm like, why are you asking me where this file is? Things of unwritten processes, people just running at such speed that they're probably being 80% good at everything they're doing, but not finishing the job 100%. So just good documentation, good journal support, having a proper structure of where files are saved. And what ended up happening was one of the biggest pains we've had is key person risk. For example, I'm a key person risk. I still know where a lot of the files are. And there's a number of people in the team that are like that. And that's just because we've underinvested in finance for many years, but rightfully so, because we have been focusing on commercial growth, international expansion, and finance has played a key role in enabling that, whatever is required by the business, as opposed to putting blockers in front of the business. So really, the challenges for the finance team have been going at such speed, changing pace in whether it's new warehouses, whether it's international expansion, whether it's transitioning from being a FMCG retailer to now a technology B2B business. And from that changes people capabilities. It changes the requirements that the business have for finance. And it also impacts our finance systems as well. The systems we had as a retailer is very different to the systems we need for a technology business, or they might be the same, but the reporting might be different. All of those things massively impact us, and it's just a huge, it's just really challenging, and I really feel for our people. And we're doing a lot now to try and make sure that we can support them and enable them, their growth, and also enable the business as well.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's very interesting. And in 2020, the World Health Organization declared a global pandemic. As such, many companies were forced to restructure and pivot themselves for remote working. As a company that has gone through multiple transformations during its time, what transformations have you undergone within finance, and what have been some of your learnings?
That's a really good question. And actually, I think every finance team and their dog right now is doing a transformation, right? Or they're living with the after effects of a transformation. When I joined, we were a very Excel spreadsheet heavy business. And about 18 months when I joined, I was like, I can't keep running in Excel anymore. Our board packs were just wrong. The numbers were changing. We'd run into the board meeting with a page and go, I'm really sorry, this page has changed. It's not okay. So we then got Oracle Planning and Budgeting Cloud Services, or Solutions rather. And that was mainly to allow us to have one source of the truth of reporting. And that was great. So that was the first step in transitioning us from, access databases and things that were out of date into the cloud, which was really good. And it also took us time to help the finance team just transition into something that was more, that was quick to respond. Over the pandemic, we started doing a finance transformation. So as I said, we were a retail business, now we're a technology business. So our systems and our chart of accounts and our ways of working are all written as a retailer. Our chart of accounts still have ways to segregate things like, baby food and, how we do different reporting. But as a business-to-business provider, a technology platform provider now, it's all about the CapEx that we're spending and the warehouses that we're building, which meant that what we've got in our systems is a bit different to what we need now. So we went through a large transformation. We brought in Oracle Fusion. We changed our target operating model. What does that mean? We centralized a lot of our key processes into one central team. And we also then brought in global processes. So we made sure we had key people doing global processes, leads and experts. These are all things that are absolutely required for a FTSE 50 company that's in 9 countries and expanding, right? And on top of that, we brought in a treasury management system. So all of these things we had at the same time. If I could go back and do it again, I'd probably say I would probably not do all of it at the same time. What my key learning has been is that change is great. And when you're in a business like this, you're just living change all the time. But the challenge is change is great with the system, but if your day job changes as well, there's just too much change. So the people were really impacted. So what I would have done was I would have changed the target operating model first. I would have centralized the teams and got them used to their teams. What ended up happening was we centralized teams, 3 months later changed the system. So everyone was in new in role, everyone was in new teams, and then everyone had a new system. So you look left and you look right in your desk, and everyone's like, well, I don't know how to do that. I don't know how to do that. And that just fuels uncertainty even more, and that impacts morale. So that's what I would have changed for sure. But I mean, change is in our DNA in Ocado Group. One of our values are we can be even better. And no matter what we do, we know that we'll probably change it again, because actually we can be even better. And that is something that's lived and breathed through the entire business.
Yeah, well, you're clearly doing something right with the way you've taken things over the last couple of years. So we've spoken about the business and operational side of things, but I'm also quite keen to find out a little bit more about your own journey at Ocado Group. So how do you think your leadership style has changed during your time?
It's a great question. I've been through a lot. I mean, so the first person I ever managed was in Ocado Group. So prior to my time at Ocado, apart from working in audit and managing audit teams, I never really had people who were a team that I was responsible for their professional development or their objectives or anything like that. So my experience has been one where I've had to learn to be a leader. I then had to lead lots and lots and lots of teams. And I've kind of just made it up as I've gone along. Really, what I've actually found that when I think back over the last number of years, it comes down to 2 very core values for me on how I lead and my style. So the first thing is everyone should have a voice. So I've worked in businesses where if you're a certain level, you don't get a say, you're not allowed into certain meetings, or you're too junior, therefore your opinion doesn't count. And actually that's not okay for me. For me, I hire people who are better than me all the time. And as a result, everyone's voice is important. I am not the smartest person in the room. I hire the best people around me to help me make a decision. So making sure that everybody has the ability to input into a decision is really, really key. And it's also important because it's their business too. They need to have a say. And I live and die by that. And then the other one is you bring your whole self to work. We spend 40 hours of a week, which is say contractual hours, 37 to 40 hours, in a working environment, and we all do more hours than that. And if you're in a negative environment, if you don't enjoy your job, if you don't like the people around you, if you don't enjoy the environment or the culture, that has an impact on your mental health. And for me, making sure that it's a fun place to work, people can be themselves no matter what. We don't have a dress code. You can come however you're dressed, you can work whatever way you want to work. As long as you're happy, I know you'll be productive. And that's more important to me than actually having to have people on certain set times in certain places in certain ways. If you're yourself, you'll be happy. And for me, that's something I absolutely do as well. I show up to work in a hoodie half the time. I make sure that I stop meetings in the office to go out and celebrate a birthday and do a sing-song, because that's important, because you've got to enjoy yourself. What ultimately comes down to with leadership style is finance is very deadline driven. So you can get to a deadline in 2 ways. One, you can get there through fear, going, oh my God, are we going to hit the deadline? Focus, focus, focus. Or you can get there through fun. And you can have fun, you can laugh, you can eat cold pizza, you can celebrate a birthday, you can get, eat lots of sugar, whatever it is. But you enjoy what you're doing together as a team. And that's the culture I've created in my team. And that's the example that I personally set as a leader as well, by, again, stopping meetings or, making sure I get to know everyone on my team and understanding things about them. But it all culminates down to those 2 values, being able to bring yourself to work and having a voice.
That's a great way to look at things. And you mentioned in the previous question actually about managing multiple transformations at one time. And I guess with that rapid pace of change, I'm curious to know, how do you manage change fatigue as a leader?
I don't know, to be honest. I think it's just interesting because whenever I'm faced with problems, like lots and lots of change, And it is exhausting because you're just thinking about multiple things all the time. My approach is to treat things like problems. So I get quite excited about challenges. So if there's a problem, whether it's a people problem or a work problem, I just see it as a challenge and a problem to fix. And so I get quite exhilarated by solving it. So I've never really seen it as change fatigue for myself personally. I think as a leader, if I was to really step back and just think about it, like as a grown up instead of that answer, I'd probably say, making sure that to be the best version of yourself and to be a good leader, you need to, I suppose, practice what you preach. And I say this being probably the worst people to take vacation, but actually making sure that you are eating healthy, making sure that you are taking time in the morning or in the evening for your family or friends, So something I've done now over the last number of years, I used to work like on the weekends all the time because I really enjoyed it. And also there's just lots to do, but I never stopped. And what I found was I would go into London or I go into work in another office and I would find that a different environment just really gave me time and space to think about things. So what I've done personally is I have a particular work-life balance kind of schedule. So I stop working about 8 p.m. on a Sunday and I put the laptop away until about, say, 3 or 4 p.m. I stop on a Friday and I open it out at about 3 or 4 p.m. on a Sunday. So, and I literally put it away. So unless we have a big project or I need to be aware of something, laptop physically goes away somewhere, physically goes into my office and the door is closed. And I don't check it. Work phone stays there as well. It's the only way, because pre-pandemic, I had a very clear church and state on work. I did not bring work at home. I kept work at work and I never worked at home. But post-pandemic with working from home, I've had to find a way to find that balance. So I think for me, really, it's about just finding little things. It won't work for everybody. Some people get up at 5 in the morning and do stuff. I can't get up at 5 in the morning. I'm asleep at that time, right? So, it's just finding what works for you and just making sure that your brain just has time to relax, whether it's a run, whether it's, doing something on a Saturday and not looking at work, or whether it's working in a different environment and just finding better ways to just get through the work in your mind and not deal with that fatigue.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And so a little bit of a obvious statement here. There are not a lot of women in finance, especially not so much the higher up you go. From your own experience, what is it like being a woman in finance?
I don't really notice it myself, to be honest. I have more people saying to me, "You're a woman in finance," and I'm like, "Okay, cool. I guess so." I mean, I don't really know. When I got promoted, I had a number of people on my team who came to me and were like, they found it really inspirational and things like that. I mean, you're right. There are many meetings I'm in where there's 13 people in the room and I'm the only female. But actually, I think it's actually less about the female side for me that is a challenge. I think it's my age. So I'm quite young for where I am. And I often find that most times than not, most of my peers are 15 to 18 years older than me. And that's actually more of a difference that I've noticed than being a female. There's two ways you can look at it. You can either actively go, well, I'm the odd one out, or I deserve to be there. I treat every differential or difference or diversity part of me as a complete virtue. You either own it or you don't, right? I am a female. I am an ethnic minority. I am 35. Cool, great. That means I bring diversity of thought. It means I bring a different perspective to the room. It means I've just worked up the ladder, which means I'm able to understand the challenges of, my finance accountants, my senior accountants, my managers, because I was there a couple of years ago. And I'm more in touch with that than anything else. And I have a different generational mindset. So I bring my diversity of thought as a massive virtue and I own it. And anyone who doesn't think that's good, well, tough shit. That's kind of where I'm at. So I think you just have to own these things because, it is getting better over time, but it's still going to take us a lot more years to get there.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And I have a question from one of our previous CFO Notebook guests, Mohit Daswani, who's the CFO at ThoughtSpot. And he's asked, who has been influential for you in your career path?
I'm not really sure, to be honest. Finance was not a career that I planned to go into. I actually wanted to be a doctor. Interestingly, there's nobody in my family, extended family, cousins or anything who are doctors. So my parents had absolutely no idea how I got into my mind that I wanted to be a doctor. And something really stood out for me at the time when I decided to do business and then go into finance was my dad, who's actually great, right? But my dad said to me, medicine's really hard for a girl. And I remember him saying that to me. And there's little things that's happened over my life that has just made me go, I'm going to show you otherwise, right? So I wasn't able to do medicine for other reasons at the time. But everything I do, I take it as a challenge. My mum, on the other hand, has always said things like, can't should not be in your vocabulary. So when someone says I can't do something, or, I'm not good enough, or, I'm a female or whatever, I'm like, I'm going to show you. That's just kind of, you use it. I use it as a fuel, and that drives me in my career. It drives me to be better. It drives me to be motivated, and it drives me to prove everyone, whether it's women in finance, whether it's that I'm very young, whether it's I have a different thought and that's not conventional. Well, maybe conventional isn't the way we should be thinking. I use all of these ways to just challenge the status quo. It means I was a very difficult child, as you can imagine, challenging the status quo. But that's probably something that's really probably fueled me to look at everything I do and go, I can be better in every shape or form, and I'm going to prove to everyone I can be absolutely like a complete rock star. And I think probably a more grown-up answer would be Duncan Tatton Brown is my old CFO at Ocado, and as a CFO, he's probably someone I would definitely looked up to being like, someone who is definitely calm and measured and extremely strategic, and fantastic at influencing people. So he's my mentor actually as well now. And I've worked with him very closely, and we spend a lot of time together now. So as a CFO, who would I like to aspire to? I would probably say someone like him.
Mm-hmm. Okay, great. Well, that's all the questions I have. So thank you very much for joining me today. It's been lovely chatting with you and hearing all your insights at Ocado Group.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, and if you'd like to watch more of our CFO Notebook series, or simply want to access more information on the latest emerging trends impacting senior finance leaders, you can visit the CFO online. Don't forget to like, comment and subscribe to our YouTube channel for more video content. Thanks for watching.